So I'm going to make a crunchy salad, which is basically going to consist of lots of stalks from some of the wild leaves that are in season at the moment. So I'll first of all just talk through what we've got. This is dock, very small at the moment, but it still has good crunchy stalks with a bit of colour. Again, with a bit of colour, we've got this hogweed, wild garlic, otherwise known as ramsons here, poppy leaf, very, very sweet and juicy, particularly at this time of year. Here we have some wild lettuce, which can actually be extremely bitter, but with all the very, very cold weather we've had recently, that seems to have had the effect of making it much milder and sweeter. We have wild chervil, really teeny tiny, first of the year, but it still has a good crunchy stalk on it. Sea radish, good, nice, hot, but also sweet, mustardy radishy one. This is wild cabbage. This is Alexander's. Looks a bit like celery, but it's a very unique flavour. And here we have some three-cornered garlic, which is the least crunchy of all, but it still does have a bit of body to it. So what I'm going to do is basically remove the leaf blades, that's the flat green part of a leaf, from the stalk. That's the part that supports the leaf and attaches it to either to the root or to the stem. And I'm going to put these leaf blades to one side because they can be used to make a quite separate salad. So just working through the radish now. Strip the leaf blades off in the cabbage. I have a pile or a row of stalks gradually accumulating here. I'm not going to fiddle too much with this wild chervil. By the way, the wild chervil stalks over the course of the season will end up being as fat as that, but just now they're really quite delicate. So that's all I'm going to do to those. End up with a little bit of leaf blade still. I'll do a similar thing. Now, quite often with this dock, I would actually do this part out in the field, but I didn't want to bring unrecognisable dock leaves back, but just pull them together like that and twist them, and then the leaf blade can just go out of the way. Again, I think I will just cut the lettuce. Obviously there's still a bit of green flappy stuff there, but mostly what we have left is the midrib rather than the stalk. Just to make that clear, the midrib is this structure that runs all the way down the leaf. It's the main vein, essentially. It's like a collection of veins in the middle of the leaf. But it's, to all intents and purposes, you know, as crunchy as a stalk, so it fits in nicely. I'm going to do the same with the poppy. Just cut it off there. Likewise with the ramsons. So we've got a bit of a spectrum here with the ramsons. There's some really quite tiny ones. But again, as the season progresses, these stalks get thicker and thicker. And I do tend to use them as with all of these leaves, I do tend to use the leaf blade and the stalk in quite separate ways. So the stalk is somewhere half between a garlic clove and an onion in terms of its flavour and uses. So by all means we can do what we're doing now. We can chop it and put it through a salad. Alternatively, there's the option of chopping it and using it like cooked onion or garlic, sweating it or putting it through a soup or a casserole. And of course you don't have to separate it out, but it just makes you think in a bit of more of a nuanced way about the characteristics of the leaf and the stalk. So all of this probably could do with a bit of a wash at this point. There's the 3-corner garlic, and again I'm just going to twist off these leaves on the Alexanders. I could also cut them and achieve the same result. So now some of these, not all, have a little bit of dirt, which we're going to rinse off. Now it's important to say I don't use tap water on any of these plants to wash them unless I can avoid it if they're going to be eaten raw. The reason for that is there are bacteria on the surface of these leaves which, if you eat them, they're going to be aiding your own gut bacteria, adding to that. And if we were going to store these plants, I also wouldn't use tap water, because without the microbes on the surface of the leaf, the shelf life is significantly reduced. So now I've got it all chopped down, I'm probably going to adjust the quantities a little bit so that nothing is dominating too much. So we'll save that for the Alexanders, and we've got 2 sauces of garlic, oniony flavour. I didn't say anything about this one. The 3-corner garlic is milder than the Ramsons, and it also is referred to as wild garlic, so it's one of several. So now I'm just going to bring it all together and chop. Need to get a good firm grip on it. So, I mean, one thing to say about this, obviously there's a lot of texture about this. That's one of the main points. It's a crunchy flavour bomb of a salad. But with respect to the flavour bomb aspect, it's good to just run through what we've got in here. So we've got a spicy, mustardy, radishy cabbage family plant. We've got a sweeter and also slightly bitter cabbage family plant in the wild cabbage. We've got 2 alliums, the wild garlic, the Ramsons, and the 3-corner garlic, and we've got a sweet and very earthy wild lettuce, and much sweeter still poppy leaf, and then we've got some really strong aromatic flavours coming through from both the wild Chervil and the Alexanders. So that's quite a kaleidoscope of flavours, which all the chewing that you've got to do to get this one down, you're going to get plenty of chance for those flavours to mix and meld in your mouth and create a bit of a cocktail there. And you wouldn't believe it if you tasted the flavours individually. Some of these are really quite strong flavours, and you would think, especially for example with the Alexanders, that you wouldn't want to put them in a salad. You want to hide them away and cook them in a way that would tone down the intensity of the flavour. Okay, so there's our crunchy flavour bomb salad in the raw and naked. I haven't put any kind of dressing on there yet. If you do find the flavours too strong, there's 2 ways you can go with this. One is via the dressing. Mayonnaise really does a lot of masking around strong flavours. So go with the mayonnaise if you find it too intense as it stands. Another approach you can take is to grate some beetroot, grate some carrot, celeriac, any other root vegetable, or put some cabbage in there, shredded up. And you'll see that in talking about those kind of ingredients, there's a reference there to a coleslaw. I mean, this is kind of like a wild coleslaw. So that is also an option to make this less intense. So there we are. We'll come back and do another one that shows you what to do with the leaves.